girls, feet on the dirt in the sand, cheering loud, the pride of our land. With every bone, we rise and stand. She's the heart, she's the hand. Football girl, shine in the light. Football girl.
I thought it was just like really cool that you reached out. It's not every day you get someone that says, hey, do you want to have a chat about women's football? So listen, I can talk for days about all different things women's football, and like having been a player that took some time away from it and then come back to the game and kind of like re-fallen in love with playing. It's definitely something that I think it's really cool that you're out there promoting and wanting to talk to different people. Like you said, you're talking to lawyers and team managers and coaches. And I think for me, I'm a player, but I've also been like the physio and then S&C and an assistant coach in women's football. So I've kind of seen the different dynamics, and it's cool just to see lots of different people kind of championing it. So yeah, when you reached out, I was like, what is this? So I'm on LinkedIn quite a bit, chatting with different people. And
why? What you doing on LinkedIn?
I think for me, like, one, it's great as a player, but it's also great as like a coach and physio to like link with other people around the world and see how people are doing things. Everyone's probably trying all these different things, especially for me as a physio, and the kind of injury prevention and injury rehab space. It's really jumping off the floor in terms of, hey, we need female specific research and stuff. So I spend a lot of time kind of connecting with different people in that realm, so I can see what's kind of going on elsewhere, to kind of give me a bit of a direction, what I do over here. Okay, well, this team in this league's doing X, Y, Z, and then I'll look into it. So yes, I'm on LinkedIn quite a bit.
Do you feel like you guys are far away, so you have to, these things connect you to
a little
places?
bit.
Okay.
A little bit, yeah, especially because it's not every day that you can rock up to a Premier League staff member and be like, why do you do that? There's not a lot of platforms. Yeah, I've connected with different people in different leagues, and like for me as a player, I've also like connected with scouts from different leagues, more just to say, hey, like in your league, what are the things you're looking for in a player, or what are the things that you see are weaknesses in this position? And it gives you like a different insight instead of, an Australian scout might be looking at a right back a completely different way as someone in the UK or in the US. So like I've definitely had conversations and be like, hey, could you watch a game of mine, or a game in my league, and kind of compare where that stands comparative to the leagues in your country? And then it kind of gives me a bit of an insight, like, okay, well, the NPL, the A-League might kind of match this sort of style of play. And because I have conversations with lots of players that want to come play in Australia, or from Australia that want to go play elsewhere. And I like to have as much information.
You're just like the yellow pages.
Yeah, I probably got undiagnosed ADHD and have to have too many things going on. But yeah, I like
think it's because we've been involved since we were young?
I think so. Yeah, and like we were chatting about before, like I've just seen so many players just give up, whether it's they were in the wrong environment, or maybe the wrong league in the wrong country, or they had a massive injury and they just didn't have the right rehab or the right prevention to stop it from happening. So like I've seen really, really talented players get taken out by an ACL, and then they redo their ACL, and then they're like, I'm just not, that's me, I'm done, kind of thing.
Yeah, but they don't want to even stay in the game. Does that surprise you?
Well, sometimes it's, people might have fallen out of love with the game because they're in the wrong environment, or I know a couple girls that, they've done all the hard yards to come back from an injury, and then they just get another injury, or they break a bone, and then they get to a point where they're like, mentally, do you want to go through another 9 months of pushing yourself to rehab, to get strong, to get fit again? Let me tell you, I've had a few injuries where I've gone, if I have to run one more fitness drill to get back in shape. I am not doing it. Like, you get to a point where you're like, I'm not getting fit again. Like,
you just want to get fit to play, you mean?
Well, it's more like the mental side of things. Like, if you're not in a league where you're a completely paid full-time professional with the right staff around you, and you're a university student or a PhD student, or you've got a full-time job, like, going, okay, do I want to do another 9 months of paying for rehab, getting out there at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning to do my rehab because I've got to go work a full-time job just to get back on the field? Sometimes those scales tip. So yeah, that's kind of why I think for me, I've kind of seen the injury side, I've seen the player side, I've seen the coach side, the physio side, and yeah, I just think that's such a void, women's football, for information and for research, that it's just starting to get the legs off the ground, that what I'm doing here might be not the right thing. So I want to know, hey, person over there that's getting paid thousands of pounds to do this job and keep these people on the field, like, what are you doing? Is it something simple? Like, I've had people turn around and go, oh, we just do this. And I'm like, that's such a simple thing to think of. Maybe we'll try that.
As a physio, you mean? You're thinking as a physio?
Yeah. So, like, like I was saying, playing college soccer, the concept of rest was not a thing. Like, rest and recovery and wellness was not anything in our training sphere. Whereas we know now, like, one of the best things you can do is, maybe not train the same thing twice a day, every day, 6 days a week, and have a day off, sleep well, eat well, those kind of things. Like, that's such a simple thing, but it wasn't something we were doing 10 years ago. Maybe we don't want someone to train 5 hours a day, 2.5 in the morning, 2.5 at night, and then make them run the same drill for an hour and a half and sustain ACL injuries on a silly tackle that's non-contact or a twisting foot. Yeah, just like silly, simple things. So yeah, that's why I'm on LinkedIn chatting to different people, trying to get as much information as I can.
You just finished your contract with Auckland.
Yeah.
And what did you know where you were going before it finished?
I'd had discussions because it was like a short-term thing, and we were tossing up, do we want to move back to New Zealand? Do we want to stay in Australia? Do we want to move to the US? So I'd spent some time in the summer playing for a summer team in the US while we kind of looked there, and we're like, it's not right for us, and maybe we'll go back to Auckland and see if we like it in terms of like the day-to-day, like, is it the right fit? So I was like, great, I can go back and play for like my youth club with a bunch of my friends that I grew up playing with, because they were all going back to Auckland United too. And I'd had offers over here for MPL before I went over. And I didn't know if I was going to be asked to, stay with the team, or, did I like the league? Was I good enough for the league, kind of thing? So yeah, it was very much an open book. It was like, am I going to play? Am I not? So like Auckland United asked if I wanted to stay, and I kind of was still very up in the air about, do I come back or stay in Auckland? So ultimately, like, I have a family here. I had a job here in Melbourne, like a really good job. We have friends here and things, so we were kind of like, maybe we'll stay here for a bit longer. So yeah, took one of the clubs that I had an offer with up on the offer, and then basically came back from Auckland and then went straight into that pre-season for the MPL season over here.
When does that start?
So our season over here started February, so quite early.
So when did you start pre-season, like the new year?
Yeah, so I had come back over in December, so I trained a little bit because I had like a kick around before Christmas just to kind of see, like, is this the right club, meet the coach, that sort of stuff, when we were kind of like, are we going to Auckland and like buying and building, or are we going to stay in Melbourne? So kind of like met the club, met the coach, and then went back over to Auckland for a little bit. And then, yeah, pre-season over here was like January. So I had to make a decision. Like, pre-season for Auckland was just about to start. And then pre-season over here was just about to start. So yeah, then had to bite the bullet and make a choice. So yeah, we chose to stay over here.
Who's we?
My husband.
Okay.
I have an American husband. That's why I play soccer all the time. And then we've got a 4-year-old. So I've got a little boy. Yeah. So yeah, so I got a little family. I don't, it's only been recently that I've really like started like sharing that so much. I used to have my Instagram on private and all that because it was a contract like no-go for places. So yeah, it's very like what I'm saying is a very different evolving space.
What was the contract no-go for places?
So like having a family and that sort of stuff has definitely been a deal breaker for some places and some teams.
What, for women's footballer?
Oh yeah. It's only the last, I'd say end of 2024, 2025 that I like was like, okay, he can be on my social media. I can have an open page and I can like let people know.
Is that a thing only in Australia, in New Zealand or Australia?
No, this is overseas. Like I had clubs be like, yeah, having a chat, and then they're like, oh, you have a family and a kid. No, that's too hard visa wise, or you know, you're not going to be committed. And I was like, well, it's funny because I've been committed to the team that I'm at now, who I've not had a problem with.
They don't want families.
Well, it's very 50-50. Clubs are like, this is amazing, or clubs are like, closed doors. Nah, we're not going to get visas for that type of thing if you want to play overseas. Yeah, it's definitely not a problem in the men's space.
Yeah,
men's space, it's not a problem.
Yeah, I never knew that. I think that goes on the negative list, obviously, isn't it? So
yeah,
they find out you've got a...
Yeah, I've had feedback.
I don't know what to say. It's like...
yeah, it's astounding, right?
I hope people play football, don't listen to us talk and think that you shouldn't play football.
No, I think what I would like... Yeah, it's good to know, but I would say it's changing. That's what I mean. Like 2 years ago, I was very like, oh, should I say anything? Should I not? Should I get through contracts and then be like, by the way, I'm bringing my kid over type thing? I was very, very cautious, and I'd been told to be very cautious. And it wasn't till, probably the last 2-3 seasons where I've been like, look, I'm not going to pretend like I don't have a life. Like I'm 29 years old. I have a career. I have a life and a family. And I want to go to clubs that value that. So yeah, where every team that I've been with recently, it's been like a bonus, like it's a good thing.
What, to have a family?
Yeah, to have a family, have a kid, and then go back and play and show that you can still play. And you know, all the clubs that I've been at recently have been like super, super supportive of that. And I think teams like the US women's national team and having coaches like Emma Hayes really be in front and be like, look, we're the best, one of the best teams in the world, and she's out there at training holding her players' kids on her hip, or being like, you know, we want mums to come back and play, and we want female specific research. I think it's been eye-opening for clubs. Like there's a lot of clubs that value that and have, you know, there's leagues that have maternity protections and contracts that did not exist before the last 2-3 years. So yeah,
tell your husband I said hello.
I will. He's with the kid, putting him asleep. So
okay, yeah. How old's your child?
He's 4.
He's a boy. He's 4.
He's a little boy. Yes, he's very, very full on, very energetic.
You had a baby at 25.
I did, yeah. Because I was like, I'm done playing. I'm not going to play again. Okay. You couldn't pay me to touch a football. And it was actually having him that I was like, you know what? Like, maybe I'll join a team with, like, you know, other players that used to play or people that are mums now. Because I was like, I need to get out of the house. This was like after COVID, during COVID over here, when we're allowed freedom outside. And my husband was like, you need to get out and talk to adults, not other people's babies. And I was like, yeah, I think you're right. So yeah, and I reached out to, which was Melbourne Uni, because I was at Melbourne Uni at the time, finishing up my postgrad, and just messaged their like soccer club at the uni and just asked if they had like an over 35s or like, you know, washed up players team that I could go play at. And they asked where I'd played before and what position, and it turned out that their senior women's team, so like their top team, they just had centre backs go to Europe. And I was like, I hadn't kicked a ball in 2.5 years, so I had to like go find a pair of boots and Went and got a football from like one of those like cheap sports stores just to see if I could kick a ball again before I turned up. And yeah, it was actually having my son that I was like, you know what, like maybe I'll try play, and then not play for anything, like just play for myself, and found out I was still very competitive and couldn't just play socially very quickly. And yeah, really actually enjoyed playing for probably the first time in, I would say, 7-8 years, that I was like, I actually just really like playing. And then I was like, and I like playing to win. And then I was like, okay, and then now I want to be serious again. So yeah, I probably wouldn't have played again if I hadn't have had him. So I was like, I'm not gonna pretend like I don't have a son. If clubs don't want me because of that, then that's their problem. So
sorry for that experience, especially I was around with when Paul was around, and you for the under-17s, and you were like a young player, and it seems that you didn't really you said you were happy the first time you were happy, and so that means you weren't happy throughout your 20s playing, basically.
Yeah, I think New Zealand football, growing up playing New Zealand, that was all great. Loved it. And I was like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And then, the serious side of thing, New Zealand football, like I thrived on. That's why I was like, I'll do great in the US because I'm such a tough player and I can do that. And then, yeah, the US experience was like, nah, don't want a bar of it. I had really enjoyed the US and I loved being there, and I loved the people that I met, and like the team that I was on was such a close knit team of players.
You quit after America,
kind of how things were. Yeah, so I stopped playing.
So did I, by the way. Yeah, so did I. I quit after America.
I was like, I was like, couldn't be me. You couldn't ask me to play 7-a-side. Nothing. I was like, I don't want anything to do with football. And then it was having my son that I was like, maybe I'll play for fun. What does that feel like? And then so it was good having that break after college, because despite maybe some of the negatives of that, I don't think I would be the person I am today, where like I'm quite a staunch like advocate for women's sports in general, but specifically football, and like I'm not afraid to have those conversations and, sit down and be like, well, it's not good enough. This is what these players deserve. Or as a player being like, actually, this is what players should be getting access to these days and stuff. So despite it not being so good on the actual playing side of things, I think overall it made me be the person I am today. And having a kid and then playing again, it puts things into perspective. Like it's a privilege to be able to go and play and, be able to play at a high level and, be fit again and things like that. So, I think for me, it changed my perspective maybe.
Do you feel more like, you're young still. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, of course, you're very young.
I'm definitely not young compared to the 18-year-olds on my team. I definitely feel geriatric at times, but.
Can you tell physically that they're different? Like, are you in shape or like?
Yeah, well, funnily enough, coming off playing for Auckland United, coming back over to the NPL, I was actually the fittest one on the team. And like I think for me, I'm in a different role now. I'm more that experienced person in the locker room, being like, hey, this is kind of the standard, and this is how we should be doing things. So maybe some of that tough love and when I was in youth soccer, but then also like some of the stuff in college, I know where the line is. Like, this is not acceptable, but also this is not acceptable. So like a happy medium. So like, simple things like make sure you touch the line when you're doing a fitness run and stuff like that. I'm the annoying person that's probably a bit more like, we can train harder. Because I'm like, well, I've got up at 4:30 to get to training in the morning. I could be at home. I could be getting my kid ready for daycare or whatever. So, like, I'm going to go to training. I'm going to train hard. So
you sounded like you. So you're sounding. So you.
I'm not mean about it though. There's a line. Like, I think I found the happy medium.
Tell me to touch the line. You touch the line. Touch the line.
I'm not crazy about it though. I think it's nice to know. I think it's nice to know that there's a medium, and I think taking my experience with New Zealand football where you can have really good direct conversations and hold each other to certain standards, but at the end of the day, we're all people. We all have our own lives, and we play football because we love it, even though it's a high level. Like when you boil it down to it, you wouldn't be turning up time and time again if you didn't love it. You would go, stuff this, I'm not doing it. So for me, it's like you can be intense, you can have standards that are really high, but you can also enjoy yourself. So yeah, I'm really fortunate that the environments that I choose to go to and that clubs choose to have me in, they're really high performance environments, but they also respect people as people. And it means that everyone can train to a really high standard, because we can have that conversation like, hey, you know, this drill wasn't good enough and this is why, and hey, let's try to do this. It's not like a rah at each other. So yeah, it's very interesting to see how football's developed over the last 10 years to like the last 5 years. I think things have really changed in the women's space.
In the world or where you are?
In the world, but yeah, where I am, but I'm seeing it across the board. Things are really changing.
It's so surprising. I look at the time, it's like 22 minutes. I swear to you, I said, let's talk about the A-League. And we just didn't talk about the A-League.
We can switch to the A-League because it kind of goes hand in hand. So like in Australia, a lot of female professional sports have really pushed their standard and like what is acceptable, and kind of closing that gap a little bit between the men's side of a division of sport and females. And one of the ones that's still a little bit behind is the A-League. And, you know, there's some really, really strong females in that space that have sat down over the last couple of years, and through the professional association over here, they've kind of come through and said, hey, these are the pillars that we really need to look at in the women's space to elevate the game, the professionalism, the standard of pay and stuff. So it's actually like an involving space here, and they've gone, look at the Matildas, you know, they're selling out stadiums, and we had the World Cup here. Like in the space of 4 or 5 years, things have gone from, you know, games where there's a couple thousand people to, you know, 76,000 people in a stadium paying to go watch these games. And the A-League, I think the base salary is around 26,000 like Australian a year. Like that's nothing. That's below minimum wage. Like these girls are having to have part-time jobs and juggle a professional career where they're, you know, training every day, traveling. It's really not sustainable. And again, a lot of players are leaving the league or leaving playing.
Do the clubs make money to pay them?
I think that's the problem. I think it's not.
If me and you had a club, how would we do it then? If you wanted me to pay them more money and I said, hey, we need to make more money.
That's the thing, is I think the women's space is proving that they are actually. And the funny thing is there's quite a few of the women's games that have more people attend than the men's. So I think there's been this tradition of like backing men's teams, and the men's teams get the women's team as kind of like, oh, well, we have to kind of thing. Whereas there's standalone female clubs, like there's a club called Canberra United, you know, they're a women's club. And yes, the funding thing I think is a little bit different in Australia. Like we're not pumping millions and millions and millions of dollars like the UK system and the US system. We just don't have the same, I would say, caliber of league. Like you're not pulling in tens of thousands of people week in and week out. So yes, there's constraints, but it's like, okay, well, if there's a female team that is outperforming the men's team at the same club, why are the men's players getting paid, you know, proper salaries? Yeah. And I think it comes down to, it's like they're not even, you know, asking for, you know, tens, 20, 30 thousands of dollars. It's more like, hey, just make it enough that, you know, people can survive on. Like, okay, you want them to live in inner cities and pay rent and eat well, then like you've got to fund for that. They're not asking for millions of dollars. So for example, there's a sport here called AFL, so Aussie Rules Footy. The women's players base rate is like 70 something $1,000. And you know, again, they're not pulling in the same numbers, but they've figured out a way to make it profitable. And you know, maybe they leverage a little bit out of the men's space to build that women's space up to make it as profitable. But you know, over here the A-League is very, very much like players that are older that have moved back to Australia, or really, really young players and then like a bit of a spread between. But
you're talking about the Ninja A-League, yeah? You're talking about, okay, so Aussie rules women's football is not as big, is bigger than women's football.
Yep.
Aussie
rules are the AFLW, the women's version.
Yeah.
Their players get paid in the 70,000s plus. And they have bigger teams. They have more players on their team list. So those girls are making an actual salary so that they can be professionals. You know, they can go and train, and that's what they can focus on. But yeah, the Ninja A-League, so women's soccer, so football, doesn't even touch the walls of that. So like these players are, you know, scraping by trying to be professional footballers. So it's a very, very young league. Like there's 15, 16, 17-year-olds playing in that league as key positions, which is great for the development of those players. But then those players then just go play overseas because they can't.
Stop.
Yeah, they stop or they come play NPL.
They're starting. Those teenagers are starting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's a club called Sydney FC. They have like a 15-year-old centre-back. She's a baller. But it's like those are the kind of players that can afford to you know, be in that league for a couple of years, develop, and then, yeah, the clubs are getting money because they sell that player to somewhere overseas, but then that player's lost to the A-League, or they might not come back for a couple of years. So, for example, Chloe Knott is a friend of mine. She plays at Auckland United. She's played over in the UK as well because she's originally from there, and she played for Wellington Phoenix for a couple of years, like as one of their key players, and she had to just stop playing because she's like, I can't afford to live and, you know, save any money, and then like study as well. Like she wanted to be a psychologist. She couldn't do it all. She either had to pause her studies or play. And then if she was playing, she wasn't making any money. She's like, I'll never afford a house, those types of things. So she ultimately, her decision, she made it very public, was I can't afford to keep playing in this league. And so she plays at Auckland United, which is still a really high level. But she's like,
Is she quitting or she's going to keep playing?
No, she still plays, but she plays for Auckland United. So she doesn't play in the top division because she can't afford to. She plays in the next level down for a very, very strong team, which is the team that I was at, Auckland United. But she's like, now she's a psychologist because she could finish her studies and she has a career. What was the difference?
So she played so playing for the higher league would have been more negative.
Yeah, well, because you get to a point where you've played a couple seasons, but you're barely scraping by or losing money, that you get to a point you're like, I can't actually keep doing that and then struggling to do that just to play professional soccer. So there's a lot of players that will leave the league, or they'll go play overseas and then they'll come back to like play a season or two to then retire professionally. So yeah, there's a lot of players that ultimately make the choice not to play in that league because they simply can't afford to. They're like, I can't play this league for 7 months of the year and make no money. I can barely pay rent.
But she can live in Auckland.
Yeah, so she's now a psychologist and she makes a proper wage, and now she can play really good football at Auckland United. Yeah, you get paid a tiny bit there, but like she's playing because she loves to play, so she's still playing.
Okay.
But she's like, I can't afford to play it for the A-League club that's in New Zealand because you just don't get paid enough to do that. So I know players that play NPL on purpose. Like they chose to leave the A-League to play NPL because they make more money.
They make more money from the league or from their private life?
From either. So I know players that their full-time job is playing in the NPL.
NPL
they make money.
Is the second league.
So that's the second tier. So that's the Australian second tier. So
they make more money playing in the lesser league.
Oh yeah, I have friends that they have their. Well, so the thing is that NPL is not maybe regulated the same way. There's no caps. Clubs can pay as little or as much as they want, type of thing. So same in the men's space. So you could have a couple players getting like $100 or so. They're like 17. Here's some petrol money, some gas money. Well, you're not paying fees, whatever, and you get to play senior women's football. And then you got other players that are, maybe they're a visa player that's moved over. Club pays for their rent, their apartment. Here's a car. You know, they might put 2 or 3 players in an apartment, say, we'll pay for the apartment for you guys. Here's a car for you guys to share. You know, and then we'll pay you X, Y, Z amount to play games. I know girls getting, you know, thousands of dollars to play a game on the weekend, but they wouldn't get that in the A-League. So they're like, why would I even try playing the A-League when I can, you know, train 3 times a week and then go to the beach every day and then play a real
money. So why do they get more money in the lesser league?
Because the clubs can pay whatever they want. So if a club wants to win the league, and they've got the funding to do it, they can pull whatever sponsors they want. There's no like, you can only pay this amount of people this, and there's no end range and there's no top range. So they could turn around to a player and be like, we're not going to pay you. If you want to play, you play for free. But then another player on the team could be getting $1,000 a week. So,
yeah.
But it allows people to study.
Salary cap. No, but that is the problem with the A-League is the salary cap.
Football girls, feet on the dirt in the sand, cheering loud, the pride of our land. With every goal, we rise and stand. She's the heart, she's the hand. Football girl, shine in the light. Football girl,